Reyes Coca-Cola Bottling now controls 17.5% of all United States Coca-Cola bottle and can volume, making them the second largest bottler in the country. In October 2017, the parent company handed them California operations as part of a massive refranchising initiative. Since then, Reyes has been making the consolidation decisions. Close Salinas, close Modesto, close Montebello, close American Canyon. Build one automated mega facility in Rancho Cucamonga. Different locations, same strategy. Fewer facilities, fewer workers, more robots, higher profits. By June 30th, 2025, the beverage giant had permanently shuttered its American Canyon location in Napa County. This closure eliminated positions for 135 workers. The massive 350,000 square foot operation that produced Powerade, Minute Maid, Vitamin Water, and Gold Peak tea now sits empty and inactive. Just 30 days afterward, the Salinas warehouse ceased operations. Another 81 positions vanished from the employment rolls. This distribution hub had served its community continuously for 7 decades. The Modesto location followed suit, removing 101 workers from payroll. Then came Montebello, where 62 additional workers lost their livelihoods. In total, 4 separate operations and 379 California employees experienced job elimination within an 11-month period. The Beverage Corporation's public relations representative claimed this wasn't an easy choice, yet somehow this difficult decision repeated itself 4 consecutive times within California's borders, while the company simultaneously allocated $500 million toward constructing a brand new operation located just 60 miles away from one of the closed sites. The mathematics doesn't compute properly. California's beverage sector is experiencing a complete operational transformation. This extends beyond just one soft drink manufacturer. We're witnessing a fundamental reorganization of production and distribution methods throughout America's most populous state. The American Canyon operation first opened its doors in 1994. In December 2002, the Beverage Corporation acquired ownership. Throughout more than 2 decades, this location manufactured beverages for countless California residents. Then, during August 2021, corporate leadership announced closure plans, citing their asset-right approach. This corporate terminology requires translation. Asset-right essentially means the parent company prefers owning trademarks rather than manufacturing equipment. Their strategy involves dictating product specifications to contracted manufacturers, affixing their branding, and avoiding the operational complexities of managing production facilities directly. This pattern extends far beyond California's borders. Worldwide, the Beverage Corporation eliminated 2,200 positions through this restructuring initiative. They discontinued 200 product lines, including brands like Odwalla and Tab. The corporation's operational margin currently maintains approximately 30%. Available cash flow reached $10 billion. California simply experiences the most severe impact of this worldwide strategy. The financial data becomes particularly striking when examining operational expenses. California charges industrial facilities 21.6 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. The nationwide median sits at 7.6 cents per kilowatt hour. California manufacturers consequently pay 184% above what similar businesses spend elsewhere in America. That's nearly triple the cost. Operating beverage production demands enormous energy consumption. Refrigeration systems, bottling machinery, packaging operations, and distribution warehouses all require constant power around the clock. Multiply those baseline requirements by 184%. This isn't a minor accounting discrepancy. This fundamentally breaks business profitability models. Energy expenses represent merely the starting point of California's cost challenges. The state's minimum hourly wage reached $16.90 in January 2026. Meanwhile, the federal baseline remains at $7.25. California employers therefore pay a 133% premium simply for hiring workers compared to businesses operating in alternative states. Workers' compensation insurance expenses in California run 178% higher than the nationwide median figure. Companies pay roughly $60 monthly per employee in California versus $45 elsewhere in the nation. The state corporate income tax stands at 8.84%, ranking 8th highest nationally. Here's a detail most people overlook. California imposes taxes exceeding 10% on manufacturing equipment purchases. Meanwhile, 38 different states completely exempt such purchases from taxation. Consequently, Purchasing a $10 million bottling system triggers an additional $1 million tax penalty simply for choosing to manufacture within California's boundaries. Chief Executive Magazine has consistently ranked California in the absolute bottom position, number 50 out of 50 states, for business operating environment. This ranking hasn't fluctuated for more than a decade straight. The beverage company narrative contains fascinating contradictions. While eliminating 4 operations and cutting 379 positions, Reyes Coca-Cola Bottling simultaneously announced a $500 million capital investment in Rancho Cucamonga. This represents California's first newly constructed soft drink production facility in approximately 6 decades. The plan involves transforming an existing 125,000 square foot distribution center, originally built in 1984, into a massive 620,000 square foot advanced technology campus. The redesigned complex will feature complete production capabilities, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, public tour facilities, drought-resistant landscaping, and numerous other modern amenities. The Salinas closure specifically deserves particular attention because this situation carries unique emotional weight. The Beverage Corporation maintained continuous presence in Salinas, spanning 7 decades, dating back to 1955. That time span exceeds most living people's lifetimes. The operation on Vandenberg Street, positioned near Salinas Airport, employed 81 individuals. Many had dedicated multiple decades to that specific workplace. Stephen Dionio devoted 18 years of employment at that location. When reporters questioned him regarding the closure announcement, he stated, "We must maintain optimistic attitudes. Operations here have been satisfactory, bringing me contentment. The moment has arrived to pursue different opportunities." Corporate management announced the closure decision on a Friday afternoon. This timing follows classic corporate communication strategy. Negative announcements get released when public attention is minimal. Salinas Mayor Dennis Donahue provided a pragmatic reaction. He observed, "Our preference would have involved San Jose operations consolidating into Salinas, but circumstances don't operate that way. If opportunities exist for transforming disadvantages into advantages, we'll pursue that direction as rapidly as possible." This constitutes political language for acknowledging defeat while maintaining public composure. During October 2017, the beverage parent corporation sold its California and Nevada bottling territories to Reyes as part of a substantial refranchising campaign. Essentially, the parent company transferred California operations to Reyes while concentrating on syrup concentrate production. Reyes now controls 17.5% of all United States bottled and canned beverage volume for this brand. That positions them as America's second largest bottler for this product line. They're the entity making consolidation choices, shutting down Salinas, Modesto, and Montebello operations while constructing the Rancho Cucamonga campus. Different physical locations, identical strategy, reduced workforce requirements. California implemented the nation's first local sugar-sweetened beverage tax in Berkeley during 2015. The measured outcome showed a 52% reduction in sugary beverage consumption after 3 years elapsed, alongside a 29% increase in water consumption. Oakland implemented similar measures in 2017. The resulting data indicated a 26.8% decrease in purchases. Sports beverages specifically declined 42.4%. San Francisco passed their taxation measure in 2018. Albany added comparable legislation. Santa Cruz most recently passed such measures in November 2024. University of California, Berkeley researchers documented a 33% decrease in sugary beverage purchases across 5 major United States cities implementing taxes. Additionally, researchers noted a 28% decline in social acceptability surrounding sugary beverage consumption. Consumers not only reduced purchases, but actively avoided being observed purchasing such products. For corporations selling sugar-based beverages, this represents an existential threat to core business models. The beverage industry successfully lobbied for California legislation banning new local soda taxes until 2031. Existing municipal taxes received grandfather status exemptions, but no additional cities can implement new taxes during this period. Nevertheless, permanent damage occurred, consumer habits shifted fundamentally, and reversal appears unlikely. The corporation established its Los Angeles syrup manufacturing operation among the first three facilities ever constructed outside Atlanta, alongside Dallas and Chicago locations. In 1939, they constructed the iconic Los Angeles bottling facility at 1334 South Central Avenue. Architects designed it in streamlined, modern nautical style, featuring portholes and catwalks. The structure resembles an ocean liner somehow transported into downtown Los Angeles. That building achieved Los Angeles Historic Cultural Monument designation number 138 in 1975. It remains a landmark representing California historical heritage. During World War II, corporate president Robert W. Woodruff mandated that every military serviceman could purchase a beverage for 5 cents, regardless of global location. The company constructed bottling facilities adjacent to military installations throughout California, including Camp Pendleton. The Beverage Corporation didn't merely sell refreshments in California, they became interwoven with California's cultural identity. Now they're consolidating into one centralized mega facility and outsourcing production to companies most consumers have never encountered. 13 decades of historical presence reduced to corporate efficiency calculations. Leadership transitions are approaching rapidly. CEO James Quincy transitions to executive chairman in March 2026. Enrique Brown assumes the new CEO position. This leadership change establishes groundwork for renewed automation emphasis and efficiency priorities. Corporate projections anticipate 5 to 6% organic revenue growth in 2025. They forecast 8 to 10% earnings per share growth. Meanwhile, Reyes Coca-Cola maintains 27 California facilities, employing 5,500 individuals even following recent closures. This doesn't represent conclusion. Additional consolidation will occur alongside more efficiency initiatives and asset-right strategies. The $500 million Rancho Cucamonga operation opens summer 2026. It will feature cutting-edge technology and extensive automation, requiring substantially fewer workers than the 4 replaced locations combined. That defines California manufacturing's future trajectory. Fewer physical facilities, reduced workforce, increased robotics, enhanced efficiency. This pattern extends beyond beverages. California lost 48 craft breweries during 2024, only 26 opened. This marks the first occurrence since 2005 where more United States breweries closed than opened nationally. San Diego County, recognized as America's craft beer capital, witnessed 7 closures in North County alone. 5 had operated for more than a decade. Blue Triton Brands, formerly Nestle Waters, lost legal rights to water they had extracted for over a century under the Arrowhead brand. A cease and desist order forced them to halt most extractions by November 2023. California's beverage sector experiences pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. Energy expenses, labor costs, taxation, regulatory requirements, shifting consumer preferences, and legal challenges all converge. Some corporations adapt by constructing mega facilities, implementing automation, and consolidating operations. Others depart entirely. This phenomenon isn't unique to beverages. Tesla relocated headquarters to Texas in 2021 while maintaining engineering and design teams in California. Oracle departed for Texas. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise moved to Houston. Charles Schwab relocated to Dallas. The pattern remains clear. Major corporations aren't completely abandoning California. The market holds excessive value, but they're restructuring, consolidating, discovering methods to accomplish more with fewer California-based workers. The workers trapped between these transitions simply attempt to determine their next steps. 379 positions, that's the numerical total, not particularly large by California standards, not headline-grabbing like technology sector layoffs, but those are 379 individuals who woke up with careers and went to sleep with severance packages, 379 families determining their next moves. Some received transfer offers, San Jose instead of Salinas, an hour-plus commute replacing a 15-minute drive. Others received nothing beyond appreciation for service and reminders that the corporation didn't make this decision lightly. Meanwhile, corporate stock prices hold steady. Dividend distributions continue flowing. Somewhere in Rancho Cucamonga, construction crews build California Beverage's future. A future containing significantly more robotics and significantly fewer workers. The authentic expense here transcends 379 positions. It's the uncertainty. When a corporation integrated into California for 130 years restructures this dramatically, when they construct one mega facility while closing four others, it raises a question nobody wants to address. Who's next? California once represented the American dream, the state where fortunes were made, where innovation flourished, where anyone could build something extraordinary. Today, that dream carries a price tag most people can't afford. The numbers tell a story politicians don't want to acknowledge. California's economy is hemorrhaging businesses, bleeding residents, and drowning in debt that keeps growing deeper despite record tax revenues. Between 2024 and 2025, over 200,000 people packed their belongings and left California. Net emigration exceeded this threshold for the third consecutive year. These aren't just statistics. These are families who calculated the math and realized staying wasn't sustainable. Meanwhile, the state government projects a deficit approaching $18 billion for fiscal year 2026-27. That deficit could balloon to $35 billion annually by 2027-28, according to the Legislative Analyst's Office. This isn't a temporary setback. It's a structural collapse happening in slow motion. Consider what happened in just 2025 alone. 3% of all California businesses relocated operations to different states. That percentage translates to thousands of companies deciding California no longer makes economic sense. Chevron, headquartered in California since 1879, announced relocation to Houston. In-N-Out Burger, born in Baldwin Park and synonymous with California culture, consolidated California operations and opened regional headquarters in Franklin, Tennessee. Playboy departed Los Angeles for Miami. Realtor.com shifted headquarters from Santa Clara to Austin. John Paul Mitchell Systems moved to Wilmer, Texas. The pattern extends beyond 2025. Tesla relocated headquarters to Austin in 2021. Oracle departed for Texas in 2020. Charles Schwab moved from San Francisco to North Texas. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise chose Houston. CBRE left. AECOM left. Palantir left. FICO left. SpaceX and X followed Tesla to Texas. McKesson relocated. The list continues growing longer while California officials issue statements about their commitment to business-friendly policies. The Tax Foundation ranks California 49th out of 50 states in its Business Tax Climate Index. Tennessee, Florida, and Texas consistently rank among the top destinations for departing California companies. Chief Executive Magazine has ranked California dead last, position 50 out of 50, for business climate every single year for over a decade, not just occasionally, not during economic downturns, every single year for more than 10 years straight. Here's what California businesses face. The state corporate income tax stands at 8.84%, eighth highest nationally. California's minimum wage reached $16.90 per hour in January 2026, compared to the federal minimum of $7.25. That's a 133% premium just for hiring workers. Workers' compensation insurance runs 178% higher than the national median. Industrial electricity rates hit 21.6 cents per kilowatt hour versus the national average of 7.6 cents. California manufacturers pay 184% more for electricity than competitors in other states. The state taxes manufacturing equipment purchases at over 10%. Meanwhile, 38 different states completely exempt such purchases from taxation. Buying a $10 million production line triggers an additional $1 million tax penalty simply for choosing California as a manufacturing location. These aren't minor disadvantages. These are fundamental structural problems that make profitability impossible for many operations. California's budget situation reveals deeper dysfunction. In 2021-2022, the state celebrated a $97 billion surplus. By 2025-2026, that surplus transformed into a projected $50 to $70 billion deficit. The swing from surplus to deficit occurred in less than 4 years. The Reform California and Tax Foundation attribute this reversal to California's heavy reliance on income taxes from wealthy earners and capital gains. When high earners leave, tax revenues collapse. When companies relocate, their employees follow. The tax base shrinks while spending commitments grow. The state faces annual operating deficits beginning in 2026-27, growing from approximately $20 billion to approximately $30 billion through 2028-29, according to legislative analysts. These projections assume no major economic downturn. If the stock market experiences a correction, if capital gains revenues decline, if California loses more high-income taxpayers, the deficits expand further. The legislative analyst's office warns the budget lacks capacity for new commitments. Every year brings another crisis requiring emergency measures to paper over structural imbalances. This fiscal fragility persists despite strong revenue performance. Between July and October 2025, California collected $6 billion more in tax revenues than projected. Yet the structural deficit remains because spending growth outpaces revenue growth. The state's annual total spending growth across the forecast period reaches 5.8%, compared to an average of 3.5% in recent outlooks. Revenue growth hovers just above 4%. The mathematics doesn't work. Spending increases faster than income indefinitely until the system breaks. California faces $6 billion in extra spending for fiscal year 2026-27, including at least $1.3 billion to cover Medi-Cal benefits under federal budget requirements. The cost of Medi-Cal ballooned $6 billion more than anticipated. January wildfires forced billions in disaster aid spending and delayed tax filings for Los Angeles residents. These emergency expenditures compound existing structural problems. The state operates with minimal reserves while facing unpredictable disasters and mandatory spending increases. Meanwhile, fiscally disciplined states announce surpluses, refund taxpayers, and increase reserves. Texas projects strong surpluses. Florida maintains healthy cash cushions. North Carolina builds reserves. Utah, Tennessee, and Idaho consistently exceed revenue expectations while maintaining lower tax rates and leaner budgets. These states actively court California businesses with promises of lower costs and friendlier operating environments. Texas Governor Greg Abbott awarded John Paul Mitchell Systems $640,000 in grant funds to support expansion into Dallas County. States compete aggressively for California companies, and California keeps losing. From 2011 to 2021, 789 companies moved headquarters out of California, representing 1.9% of the state's headquarters. The decrease in jobs resulting from these relocations represented 3.7% of all headquarter jobs, approximately 77,600 positions. About 150 headquarters left California in 2011 compared to over 200 in 2021. During the same period, headquarter relocations from other states to California declined from almost 140 to just under 70. The net outmigration peaked in 2022 at 741 firms following pandemic-related economic disruptions and strict regulations. In 2023, net outmigration reached 533 companies. The housing crisis compounds economic dysfunction. The median California home price hit $868,150 in 2024, making California the most expensive housing market nationally. Mid-tier homes in California cost more than twice the typical mid-tier home in the rest of the United States. Monthly payments for a newly purchased mid-tier home exceeded $5,500 in September 2025, a 74% increase since January 2020. The annual household income needed to qualify for a mortgage on a mid-tier California home reached approximately $221,000 in September 2025, more than double the median California household income of $102,000. For bottom-tier homes, approximately $136,000 in annual income is required to qualify for a mortgage, about 33% higher than median household income. Housing costs have grown 74 to 78% since January 2020, while average hourly wages increased just 25%. The gap between what people earn and what housing costs widens continuously. California has the second lowest homeownership rate nationally. Just 55.3% of Californians live in homes they or their families own, barely higher than New York's ownership rate. The housing shortage persists at an estimated 3 million units as of 2025. California ranked 49th among states in housing units per resident. More than 4 in 10 households statewide faced unaffordable housing costs, spending over 30% of income on housing. 1 in 5 households spent more than half their income toward housing expenses. California's renters experience substantially worse conditions than homeowners. More than half of renter households paid over 30% of income toward housing, and more than a quarter were severely cost-burdened, paying more than half of household income toward housing costs. 8 in 10 households with low incomes were housing cost-burdened, and more than half spent more than half their income on housing. The state's high cost of living, driven primarily by housing expenses, ranks California first among 50 states in poverty under the Supplemental Poverty Measure, which accounts for local cost differences. Throughout 2023, more than 300,000 people accessed homeless services through local agencies. Los Angeles County alone had approximately 100,000 people accessing homelessness services. A statewide survey found that 37% of Californians have seriously considered leaving the state because of housing costs. Nearly 30% of residents contemplating a move cite misalignment between state laws and their political views as a factor. In some 2025 surveys, residents were split on whether they felt safe in the state, with only 9% saying they felt very safe. Comprehensive housing reforms remain elusive despite years of legislative debate and near universal acknowledgement of crisis conditions. California highly depends on taxing income and capital gains of high earners whose fortunes fluctuate with stock market performance. In 2022, the state experienced nearly a $100 billion surplus. This was followed by a projected $56 billion deficit over the next 2 years. Such extreme volatility makes long-term planning impossible. The state celebrated record revenues one year, then faced emergency budget measures the next. This pattern repeated throughout Governor Newsom's tenure. For the fourth consecutive year, California projects deficits despite revenue growth. Legislative analyst Gabriel Pitek warns, the multi-year deficits are alarming. The Legislative Analyst's Office projects annual operating deficits around $20 billion to $30 billion through 2028 to 29. These projections assume relatively optimistic economic conditions. Stock market poses serious risk to revenues, according to analysts. Several historically reliable indicators suggest the stock market is overheated and at high risk of reversal. Should a stock market downturn occur, income tax revenues would fall considerably. The administration's budget proposals don't incorporate these downside risks, putting the state on precarious footing. Even under optimistic revenue assumptions, the budget is only roughly balanced in the near term. The state lacks capacity to absorb unexpected expenses or revenue shortfalls. Reserve accounts have been depleted through repeated withdrawals to cover operating deficits. The budget stabilization account contained approximately $11 billion, assuming $7 billion in reserves were used in 2025 to 26. This provides limited cushion against future economic shocks or revenue declines. Pension obligations loom as hidden debt. California faces over $1.5 trillion in unpaid and underpaid pension obligations. These liabilities exist outside official state debt calculations, but represent real future obligations. As the tax base shrinks from business and resident departures, the burden of these pension payments falls on fewer taxpayers. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where higher individual tax burdens accelerate departures, further concentrating obligations among remaining residents. The regulatory environment compounds cost challenges. Before Carl's Jr. announced relocating California headquarters to Tennessee in 2016, then CEO Andrew Puzder stated it takes approximately 5 times as long to open new California locations compared to Texas or other states. Kevin Clouden, executive director of the Milken Institute, acknowledges that when businesses complain about dealing with California regulations, they're not exaggerating. Overlapping authorities and complex requirements make operating in California genuinely difficult for many businesses. The California Environmental Quality Act, while protecting environmental interests, has become a litigation weapon. Private enforcement through lawsuits can substantially slow or halt housing and business development projects. Opponents use CEQA to block developments they oppose for reasons unrelated to environmental protection, including labor considerations, competitive concerns, or general resistance to density increases. This regulatory complexity extends across all sectors and business sizes. Bed Bath & Beyond announced its planned return to brick-and-mortar retail will bypass California entirely. Executive Chairman Marcus Lemonis stated the state's heavy regulations and high costs make it too risky for business. He criticized California for imposing steep taxes, fees, wages, and regulations that stifle growth. The retailer, which shuttered all stores after bankruptcy in 2023, rebranded as Bed Bath & Beyond Home and launched new stores in Tennessee, with plans for approximately 80 more openings nationwide. California gets 0. In-N-Out owner Lindsay Snyder didn't mince words explaining her decision to relocate. During an appearance on the Relatable podcast, she stated, "There are great things about California, but raising a family is not easy here. Doing business is not easy here." This from the granddaughter of founders Harry and Esther Snyder, whose family built an iconic California brand over decades. Even cultural attachment to California heritage couldn't overcome operational reality. The contrast with other states is stark. Austin eliminated parking requirements, allowed increased density and taller buildings, made building permits easier to obtain, and saw rents fall 22% since August 2023. Bloomberg highlighted Austin as the poster child for building more homes to solve affordability. While San Francisco and Chicago face criticism for onerous permitting processes, Austin cut regulations to speed development. California cities generally move in the opposite direction, adding complexity rather than removing. Well, one,